President Jacob Zuma has assured the country that local financial institutions can withstand Brexit. The world has been reeling from the United Kingdom's exit from the European Union and the resignation of that country's Prime Minister David Cameron. To discuss what it could mean for South Africa, let's chat to Tom Wheeler, a research associate at the South African Institute of International Affairs. Tom, thanks so much for joining us on the line via Skype. Good to have you on the program.
Good to be here, Jan.
Tom, I must say, when this news broke on Friday, it did come as somewhat of a shock. I think everybody was, I suppose, optimistically expecting them to stay within the European Union, but they didn't. And then the market reacted atrociously, including our market. Our JSE tumbled, our currency got such a hit. Let's talk about the repercussions for South Africa. What do you think they are?
Well, I think there are a variety of them. Strangely enough, because of this uncertainty, people are moving into gold. So the price of gold has increased. That's the positive one. The question of how much trade will continue is another question, whether the United Kingdom will have the funds to be importing South African goods. That remains to be seen.
Yeah. I know that our president released a statement saying that the Reserve Bank, the National Treasury, they're closely monitoring the unfolding developments and will advise the South African public where necessary. He also went on to say that the country would continue with trade relations between both the EU and Britain. But it is going to have an effect. These are our biggest trading partners.
That's right. There was recently an agreement signed called an EPA, Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union, and that applies to all the SADC countries. Now, whether that can be applied to the United Kingdom remains to be seen, but that would be the basis of the trade relationship.
Let's just shift our attention to issues in the UK, because everybody's still talking about the fact that we're entering into the unknown. We still don't know what the repercussions are going to be. We've seen the resignation of their Prime Minister, David Cameron. There's talk now that this is going to be one of the ugliest divorces ever. The EU saying we want you out and we want you out quickly. There are jobs on the line. There is a lot of issues that still need to be ironed out. What is your vision? What do you think is going to happen if you had to predict?
According to the agreement by which the United Kingdom joined the European Union, they have 2 years to settle this. But I think what is important is that Scotland, which had a referendum on separating from the United Kingdom a while ago, is now thinking along the same lines, that they would like to have another referendum and to consider joining the European Union separately from the UK. Most of their voters voted in favour of staying. And then also Northern Ireland, which has a common border with Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, is thinking about perhaps joining up with the Republic of Ireland. This is, would be a further breakup of the United Kingdom, leaving only England.
Yeah. Now, let's just talk about what's happened since this result has come out. And it's been quite interesting because there's a new petition that's being signed by Britons. And now, so far, what I've seen this morning, it may have gone higher. 3 million Britons have already signed this petition asking for another referendum because they feel that this is not the right way and they want this to be done again. So a lot of the Britons are feeling they don't want to leave the EU. The youth especially, the youth are feeling very shortchanged because they're the ones that want to remain a part of the EU. At the end of the day, is there any choice whatsoever, or any right for the UK to turn around and say, well, listen, we're not going to leave and we actually still want to stay? What is their process?
That one is a difficult one to answer. I don't know whether the EU would be prepared to let them have another referendum. But, as I said earlier, various parts of the UK have indicated that they want to stay. And the majority of people in London itself, the financial centre of the UK, also voted in favour. But the people who were in the more lower economic classes, those were the people that voted for leaving and gave us this unexpected result.
Yeah. Now, I mean, should we be concerned? Obviously, the world should be concerned, watching on, because this could be the beginning of the collapse of the EU, where we've spoken about Scotland and we've spoken about Northern Ireland. But, I mean, we've got to speak about the issues of factions within France, within Spain, within the Netherlands, other countries wanting the EU to break up. Is it a major concern?
I suppose there must always be a concern. You've got to take this into account. One doesn't know, if there are anti-EU factions in these countries. I think Marine Le Pen in France, the far right-wing party, they are in favour of leaving or breaking up the EU, and there may be other parties and factions in the other countries that are also less than thrilled with being part of the European Union. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Yeah. Predictions of another Prime Minister. We've heard talk of the fact that Boris Johnson is perhaps the man to take over this particular position. He was at the forefront of leading Brexit, and he was victorious in this. So do you think he's the man that could possibly lead the UK further?
The Conservative Party will have to decide that, but if anything is likely, I think that he is a very likely candidate to take over from David Cameron when Cameron leaves the office in October.
Yeah, he would probably be the man. If we talk about a legacy that Cameron is leaving behind, what would you say it is? I mean, has he served the UK well?
I believe so. I think he gave them this option of leaving, and unfortunately it was proved that it wasn't the most popular decision. But other than that, I'm not sure what he did for the country beyond the immediate EU issue.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's quite an interesting time in history that we're living in right now, where you're seeing the breaking up of something that's been around for so long, such a powerful force to be reckoned with, and yet we slowly but surely starting to see these factions appearing within such major powerhouses. But I think what remains to be seen is, can the UK, can Britain still remain this massive powerhouse that it has been all these years, with as we can see, a lot of companies having to move their offices away from Britain because these are the headquarters for the EU? Yeah,
that's difficult to say. I suppose they will have to make decisions on the basis of each one according to its own demands, how important their relationship with European countries are. But London is still the major financial centre in Europe.
Who would you think would be, if companies had to move on, where do you think they would move to if they had to re-establish offices, as would be the scenario?
Possibly in Germany or in Paris. It's about the most likely. They're the major financial centres in Europe beyond London.
All right, let's leave it there. Tom Wheeler, Research Associate for the South African Institute of International Affairs, talking to us Brexit, the consequences thereof, and also linking South Africa into that. It is 7 o'clock. Let's get your news.